Hello guys, welcome to Thursday's micro teach on today, Thursday 27th of July. I'm live, I'm hidden up in my bedroom, my kids are downstairs, occupied for 10 minutes while I do this, but apologies in advance if you hear any screams or shouts or a small child comes running in because it's live. They might just do that. So today's live, what was voted for was the marketing mix. And for me to explain to you what the marketing mix is. So you might have heard the term marketing mix, or you might have heard it referred to as the 4 Ps. Either way, it means the same thing. And essentially, the marketing mix is at the foundation of pretty much every business, whether you formally understand it and realise it or not. And what the marketing mix does is it underpins marketing strategy for, again, pretty much every single company. So whether you're a product or a service or a franchise, franchisee or a franchisor, it doesn't matter. The marketing mix is such an essential component, and there will be elements of that. Get comfortable. Hi Amanda. There'll be elements of the marketing mix that you are probably more comfortable with versus others. Now today I'm going to be focusing on the basics, the core 4 elements, the 4 Ps. But it's probably worth a footnote in saying that actually, if we want to go really deep on this, probably deeper than 10 minutes worth, there's actually 8 Ps. So I'm talking about the basic marketing mix, but there is an extended marketing mix as well, which I will touch on at the end just to talk you through the other 4 elements. Now, interestingly, when I was at university 20 odd years ago, there were only 7. So, you know, this is the most up-to-date version. This is the most up-to-date teaching. So if you did a marketing module, you know, 20 odd years ago, and you talked about some marketing mix elements, there were probably only 7. But now there's 8. So the importance of staying up to date, isn't it? Now, in terms of the 4 Ps then, let's focus on those 4 kind of core ones. And so we've got product, price, place and promotion. I'm going to talk you through what each one means, and kind of how it probably relates to a business like yours. It's worth saying that these 4 Ps have equal weighting. One is not more important than the other. And really and truly, you can't do one without the other because one dictates the other one. So each of these 4 elements, price, product, place and promotion, they are codependent. They overlap really, really prominently. So let's dive in then. So product is the first one. So although we have P for product, you might be S for service, and it means the same thing. So don't be sitting there thinking, well, we're a service provider, this doesn't apply to me. It actually still does. So product is all about, you know, as you'd imagine, what is your product? What is it that you are selling? What is your service? What do you provide for your customers? And within that product, you know, whatever it is that you're either physically selling or, you know, delivering as a service, mixed in with that product element is your customer, more specifically your ideal customer. So you have to really understand what it is that you're selling, and who it is that you're selling to, in order to go and make sales in your business. And also to be able to talk about your product or service as well. You can't really deliver a good, clear message about what you do if you don't really understand yourself. So let's look at that from a franchise point of view. You know, if you've got a new franchisee, or you are a new franchisee that's just come on board with your company, if you don't truly understand the product or the service that you're selling, you're going to struggle to sell it because you're not going to know who it's relevant for. You're not going to know who's going to want to come and buy it. You're not going to know who you need to go out and talk to. And you're not going to be able to confidently stand there and deliver a message at, let's say, a networking event, or if you meet another mum on the school run and you're describing what you do. So product, as all of these are, is really, really key. So hand in hand with product then, whatever your product or your service is, then also starts to dictate the price that you sell it for, where you sell it, you know, how you communicate it out there. So I'm going to look at price as my kind of second P. So price is all about the cost. In 2 respects. The cost that it costs you to make or produce it. So if it's a product, what are the manufacturing costs? You know, what are the costs involved to, you know, make the packaging and all the stuff that actually makes up that physical product. If you're a service, obviously you still have costs involved. You know, do you have venue costs to hire your venue to put your classes on? Do you have costs for printing certificates? Do you have costs for merchandise that you produce? Do you have costs for staff that you have to go and pay? So the price is determined by a lot of different things, but you must understand your costs in order to set your price for what you're going to sell it for. Now, on top of your internal costs, like I've just said, you know, will it cost you to produce your product or service? Price also looks at, you know, what kind of competition have you got around you? What are they charging for the same or similar product? Is there any competition? Are you completely unique? And also price elasticity. So how far can you stretch that price in either direction, kind of lower or higher, versus your competition? If you've got you know, a basic commodity, there is still a little bit of elasticity in there. There's still a bit of wiggle room. It's why we've got, you know, places to shop like John Lewis versus Aldi. That's your price elasticity. But a lot of the time your price is also dictated by who your ideal customer is. You know, are they affluent and wealthy? Is it a complex purchase decision? Is it a luxury item? Is it a niche item? Is it something that actually is quite freely available elsewhere, but your customers buy into you and how you deliver it? So price is a huge, we could probably do a whole session, we will at some point do a whole session just on price. So your product and your price obviously are hand in hand, because if you don't know what you're selling your product for, you've got no product to sell. You know, they need each other, they're codependent. The next P on the list is place. Now, place confuses people quite often, actually, when I talk about the marketing mix. Place is literally, where are you going to sell your item? And by sell, I don't mean physically like a shop necessarily, although that comes into it. Where are you going to go and talk about your product or your service? Where are you going to go and promote your, you know, franchise? Where are you going to go and talk about your classes? Where are you going to go and find your ideal client? So the place is that you decide to market, promote, communicate your business. You know, that end product, that end, you know, service is absolutely dictated by who your ideal client is, right? So that comes into product. But also place. If you're selling a luxury service, you know, that is also going to have some key determining points as to where you're going to go sell. You know, if you are selling a luxury, you know, if you are selling kind of, I don't know, to high-end mums, for example, and it's deemed a luxury service, then you're probably going to be targeting your John Lewis's rather than your Aldis. Okay, so where you're going to be communicating, you know, are you going to go to pre-love children's sales, or are you actually going to go to kind of more targeted family events or kind of expectant parent, you know, boutique shops, that kind of thing. So where you sell your product or service is the place. Also thinking about how you're going to sell. So not just where you're going to go and talk about it and where you're going to go and put your flyers and where you're going to go and put your message out there or physically sell, like on a booking website, for example, or in a shop. We also need to think about distribution channels as well. So, you know, what are the routes to sell? How can people come and buy from you? Is it a booking website that you're going to use? Are you going to put your items into shops? And here's a really kind of good way to look at this. So I run a Daisy First Aid franchise as well as doing this. So for me, my place is all about wherever parents are. You know, we're not particularly high end or low end. We just want parents that have got, you know, probably a newborn baby to about 6 months is our core. Okay, where am I going to find those parents? Well, I'm going to find them in John Lewis, I'm going to find them in Aldi, I'm going to find them in Mamas and Papas, but equally I'm going to go find them in the local park. Now, distribution channel wise, I've got a booking website, great. But another way to open up distribution is to use things like gift cards. So Little Starts, for example, who we work with as Daisy First Aid, are another route to getting classes out to parents, but via a slightly different distribution method. So place comes into how and where you're going to be selling both your message and your physical purchase point as well. So that is a good rundown on place. And the final one of our 4 Ps is promotion. Now, again, this confuses people a little bit because we just talked about all those places that we're going to be selling and getting our message out there. But P for promotion is actually all about how. How are you going to advertise and communicate what it is that you're selling? You know, what your product is, what your service is. How are you going to communicate your pricing? How are you going to communicate where they can, you know, buy it? So this really comes down to the channels, the marketing channels. And by marketing channels, we mean things like, you know, online, like on social media, for example. Are we going to use direct to consumer or direct to business? You know, are we going to do, you know, are we selling to businesses or are we selling directly to the end user? Let's assume that you guys are mainly selling to the end consumer yourselves. So if you're selling direct to consumer, how are you going to reach those consumers? Not quite in the same way as place, but alongside that. So for example, like I said, social media, are you going to email? Are you going to pay for TV advertising? Are you going to do radio advertising? Are you going to do print advertising? Are you going to do guerrilla marketing? Are you going to go and have a pop-up somewhere like Covent Garden where you just get the free flow of traffic? You know, so how are you going to advertise and communicate your message? Now, it's not, you know, everything comes back to sales ultimately, doesn't it, when you're a business owner? But, you know, when I say selling, what I really mean is how are you getting your message out there? How are you reaching your ideal client? So hopefully from that rundown, you can start to see why actually all 4 of those, so product, price, place, promotion, are actually all quite interlinked. They're all dependent on each other. So whoever you're selling to is really going to come down to, you know, dictate where you sell to them. There's no point selling to high-end mums on Snapchat if they're not there, for example. So how does that kind of play out in the franchise? Well, let's say you've got a children's activity service that like classes that you run. So that's your product. Your product is probably more specific than that. So, you know, it might be that you run dance classes, let's say, for example, to toddlers. So your product is dance classes for toddlers. That's your good, that's your service. You know, your ideal client as a kind of result of that is mums and dads who have a toddler. And if you're a franchise, you're probably bound by a specific territory, right? So maybe we are doing mums and dads who have toddlers in, I don't know, East Surrey. So that's your product. Your price is then, well, what is it that you're going to be charging? Well, what goes into that product? You know, what are your venue hire costs? What are your staff costs? What are your merchandise costs? What profit margin do you want to make? What are your competition doing? What are they charging for the same or similar classes in the local area? What is your USP as well? So when we're looking at pricing, you know, what is it that makes you unique? Why are they going to come to your dance class rather than the next dance class or the one after that or the one before that? How are you going to stand out? And that will also then factor into what you're going to charge for it. The place, you know, where will you sell your class? Where will you get your message out there? You'll probably go out to maybe local preschools, for example. You might go into local magazines that get distributed go through the letterboxes. You might leaflet. You might go to doctor surgeries and chemists and put your leaflets in there. You might go to local like Rhyme Time libraries. You might strike up partnerships as well with other local providers that do different things, like first aid providers, for example, that are already in front of your target audience. So that is how you're going to promote your dance classes in East Surrey to mums and dads that have toddlers. And sorry, that's the place. And then the promotion is how. How are you going to do it? Well, like I said there, we've just mentioned probably social media. Hopefully you've got an email list that you're building that you can email them to. You'll probably put posters up. And in terms of promoting and communicating, you're going to use every channel that you can find that actually hits that target audience in a way that's in line with the pricing and the product. So hopefully that brings it all together. It can get quite complicated, but it doesn't need to. Okay, all these things are things that you're doing, but this understanding just hopefully gives you an idea of why they're important and why they're so interlinked. What I see a lot of is people go really quiet at this time of year, so they drop their prices. And actually, if you think about your product and your business in the whole context of those 4 Ps, by just dropping the price of one, it doesn't actually help necessarily, because the other 3 things haven't adjusted. So now your pricing is actually just out of line with the rest of your marketing mix. Whereas actually, if you don't drop your price, but you go back to, well, am I getting out there enough? Are enough people seeing me? Is my message correct? Am I targeting the right people? So all of the other Ps, rather than just slashing the price, you actually become much more successful. So the message is, don't just drop your price, look at the entire marketing mix before you do anything like that, because there's probably other levers that you can tweak within your marketing mix to help to get the volume back if you've lost it. I'm not saying you've lost it at all, but obviously you might want to increase it and dial it up, which is even better. I said that I would round up with the extended marketing mix, so all 8 Ps. So on top of price, product, place and promotion, we also have people, so the people in your business. We have positioning, so what's your USP? How do you solve a problem for your customers? Processes, so the processes within your company that help you deliver the service that you're providing. And performance. Performance was the added P, so that's what took them from 7 to 8. Performance is about more of the ecological and the social impact that your business has. So it's not performance as in hitting your KPIs, it's performance in a more social and environmental context. So the external environment to your business, rather than the trees and the grass, but equally the trees and the grass might come into it too. Right, that's it from me from this live training. If you've enjoyed it, drop a little like or a heart, or give me some comments to let me know. If you want more training like this, then pop it in the group and let me know what you want to know more of, and we'll do another one in the future. That's it from me for this week. I'll see you next week. Bye.